So I just want to welcome Rory, who's one of our recent graduates from the Bachelor of Business Studies program. And I'm just going to ask Rory a few questions just about his experiences of the program, and hopefully it will give you an idea of what it's like. So to start with, Rory, could you tell me maybe just a little bit about your own professional background before you came onto the program?
So I have, I've worked in business for over 20 years, and the vast majority of that is in pharmaceuticals. So mostly sales, some kind of the medical side. But yeah, basically for the last 20 something years, I've worked in business without a business qualification. So that might give you a hint of my reasons why.
So that might lead nicely on to my next question of why it was you decided to join the diploma in the first instance.
Yeah, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Actually, when I decided to do this initially, I was just looking for a piece of paper. Like, if you can imagine 20 years in pharmaceuticals, and it's a heavily regulated industry, and imagine the people I might be working with. So we have people with degrees is a minimum, people with masters, and a good few people with PhDs as well. So you can imagine maybe what it was like for me as someone with no third level qualification. That actually caused a considerable chip on my shoulder, I would say, and drove certain behaviors. I always felt like I had to be the best in the room. If there was, let's say, a training or an exam or something like that, it's like I had to come out on top because I didn't feel like I was up to the same spec as everyone else in the room. So it fueled a huge amount of insecurity. So that was one aspect of it. The second thing was actually, and I don't know how many people watching this video will be like me, but I wasn't an academic in secondary school. I was a very average student, probably a fair amount of dossing. Like I got through my leaving cert, was very unsure of myself, didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. And actually I had quite a troubled few teenage years. And yeah, I went to college. I tried college. I got into college, but like for the first year, I just partied. I think I went to 3 lectures and dropped out, failed my exams. And then I tried again and did better the second time round. But really, it was more, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no focus. So so basically, it's not having a record that says I've given up on something twice really would grate at me. Even though there was really good reasons for me to drop out of those courses, they just weren't for me. So I've always wanted to resolve that. I've always wanted to go back and give it another go. And now that I know what I want to do in life, and now that I have the direction in life, and test myself and see could I apply myself and see could I circle that square and get the third level qualification. The other thing then is the reasons for doing it is I've done incredibly, up until that point, I'd done incredibly well, actually. Once I decided what I wanted to do with myself, I'd done very well, despite having no third level qualification. I had excelled, but I felt like I was getting to a point in my career where I wanted to go further, and maybe the lack of a third level qualification was going to hold me back.
Those are all really relevant reasons, and probably a lot of people watching this will be able to relate to those. I think my next question, which is usually the one that people want to know most about, is as someone who's working full time and has family commitments, how do you manage to add study into that mix as well?
Okay, so this is a challenge, right? And especially a challenge when you're committing to do it for 4 years. When I went into the program, yes, the diploma, you could have stopped at 2 years for the diploma, and some people did that. For me, I was in it for the degree, which means I was committing to this for 4 years. So fitting that in is a challenge. And every student, in my experience, does that differently. I can tell you that my kind of study partner for the last couple of years was an evening person. She'd go to work and she'd come home, have her dinner, and then the books would come out. And some people are able to stay up till midnight. and do big bursts of study maybe on a Friday. I wouldn't recommend that. My recommendation would be bite-sized study. So for me, I would chip away at stuff. Instead of taking an hourless lunch, I'd probably eat a sandwich in 15 minutes and work on an assignment for another 45 minutes for lunchtime. Might grab another half an hour at some stage during the day. If you add that up, that's an hour and a quarter during the working day. And my company, I was lucky enough to have work for a company that would support me in doing that because they were supporting me in going to college. So it's about adding up the bite-sized study times over the week. Now, it doesn't mean it's not easy. For me then, I'm not an evening person. For the full 4 years, I never studied in the evening. I'm a morning person. So on a Saturday and a Sunday, and people don't be shocked when I say this, and you don't have to do this. This is what I chose to do. I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and Sunday morning, and I would do 2 hours study before anyone else in the house was up. And then the kids would get up, I give them their breakfast, and I do another hour or two. Now, when you add all that up, that's actually a huge amount of study in the week. And I would have worked very hard because I wanted high grades. So depending on what you want from the course, you can tailor your own approach. The point is that there's loads of ways to study. There's loads of ways to fit it in. You just have to be willing to do it. And if you're willing to do it, you'll be absolutely fine.
Some really, really good advice. Rory, I would agree with you. I'm a morning person, so it's always the 5 a.m.ers for me as well when I'm doing my additional studies.
The thing is after a working day and you've had your dinners and then you're having the after dinner slump, I could never study in the evenings. And as well, the other reason, by the way, for people with kids, and particularly me, I have young kids, the reason I got up on the Saturday and Sunday mornings because I didn't want my studies to impact on family life. I was okay with it impacting work life, but not on family life. So I wanted to be there for the kids. But there are times, and I'll be honest about this, exam time, I just took days off. Take days off. I would study for 7 hours during the day those days, and I'd explain it to the family, and there'd be understanding, and thankfully I have a forgiving wife. But there were times around exam time when you just needed to put the work in, and for those times I took annual leave.
And can you, thinking back to when you first started the program, Rory, back in first year, and for someone who might be nervous about taking on an academic program who wouldn't have done anything before, how did you feel when you first get started, or what is it like for someone in their first few months or few weeks on the program?
Actually, if it's okay, I'd like to address the very first day of college. Because I remember that day vividly. I remember going in, and remember what I've said, I had dropped out of college twice. And going into that first day, I was apprehensive. Have I got the smarts? Have I got any academic skill whatsoever? And I remember that first day, there was something like 95 people in the hall, and everyone looked terrified. And yeah, we got a bit of work coming home out of that day. So that day when I came home, I had all this work to do, all these college systems and books and study guides to work through, and I had never done any of it before. Like, I didn't even know really what a study guide was, and I was spinning. Like, my head was spinning. And my message to the first years: please don't be freaked out by day one, because I feel that a good few people dropped out after day one when they saw the magnitude of what was ahead of them. It's not that bad. It's not as scary as it seems in day one. It's about getting through bits of it. So what I did that day to cope was, I was spinning when I came home, but that evening I sat down for an hour, and I just spent an hour navigating through SysWeb and Blackboard at the time, and they now have, what's it called? Brightspace, and just navigating the systems and getting a feel for all those. And once I had that done, that was one less thing I had to do. I then understood the systems. So look at the work you have to do, and instead of worrying about what you need to do, kind of celebrate what you have done and what you've, and it's about chipping away at stuff. But yeah, look, coming into first year, it was a daunting task, and learning how to do assignments, learning how to write academically. But the best thing is that you're not alone. You have so much support. And I have heard that other colleges don't give the same amount of support. Like you have your learning support officer, always available, not 99.9% of the time, but you've other students to help you. We got a WhatsApp group going, and it was somewhat cathartic because if you were struggling, you could say you're struggling and you could trash it out with your fellow students. And it's not just about, you're not in it alone. It might be a part-time distance for the most part course, but you never feel alone. So there's loads of supports there for you. So anytime I struggled, I knew I had somewhere to go to help. So first year is daunting. Day one is daunting, but you will get through it.
Great, thanks for that, Rory. Oh no, I always imagine that, and we always say that at the end of the first day. Look, you will panic a bit, but you'll get through it.
So many people panicked and didn't come back, and it's such a shame because they missed out on what's a great experience. Really, go on. Anyway, I'm digressing.
So I suppose looking to the future now, I guess, do you have a plan for what you might do with your degree, or even since you started the program, have you seen a change for yourself in terms of career prospects, or what you might not have considered doing before that you are now?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'd say is 2 years into the course, I got promoted. Now, I don't think that's any accident. I hadn't been promoted for 9 years before that. So, as regards what I might do next. So firstly, the college experience was transformative for me, right? So I went to get a piece of paper. I came out with an education. Shock. But it's like I didn't go into it thinking so much about the fact that I was going to get this great education. So it's given me such confidence and such a deep understanding of business. Like that sounds so straightforward, but you're doing a business degree, you will come out with a better understanding of business. So I had a very narrow mindset before I went into college in terms of my own potential and what I might do next. And I had kind of limited myself to certain career paths. Now I have, because of all the modules you will do, you get a taste of a load of different things within business that you can lean towards then if you're interested in pursuing those things further. So I'm not limiting myself by thinking, well, this is my career path, or this is, I have a totally open mind. I'm lucky to work in a company that there's loads of different opportunities coming up all the time. And I just keep in an open mind. I will definitely expand on my studies, right? So I will definitely do a postgrad at some stage. I'm taking a year or two break before I do that after the 4 years, otherwise I'll be divorced. But I did my dissertation on change management. I did my dissertation on change management because when I studied change management, I loved it. So it was a logical thing to do a dissertation on it. And my dissertation, I really enjoyed that. And now I'm working on some change management stuff within the company I work for. So things can happen out of, I always said at the start of college that whatever assignment I did, I would try to bring some value back to the company because I appreciated the fact that they were supporting me through. And actually doors will open that way. It's kind of funny. So the sky's the limit as regards to what I'll do next. I will definitely do, at a minimum, a diploma. I probably would be looking to do a master's at some stage. And as regards where I might go internally in the company, I have so many options. ahead of me. I'm actually taking my time, and taking time to breathe after the 4 years as well is nice, you know. So really, sky's the limit for what I might do next.
Well, that's great. It's good to have such a positive outcome, and I think it's a really good idea to take some time afterwards, because it is an intense 4 years. So
Yeah.
thanks a million for that informative chat. And I think anyone who's thinking about doing the program can really get a much better idea of what it involves. So thank you for that, Rory.
It is worth mentioning that, like, I loved the 4 years. It was a hard 4 years, but I loved the 4 years. It's over now and I miss it. And some of the other students, like, we have our WhatsApp group, like, you learn so much, you miss the learning, you know, you get to know people, you miss the people. So it will be a challenge, but it'll be one of the best things you ever do with your life. I couldn't recommend it enough.